Hello, g'day. You're watching, participating in, being in amongst, and enjoying the Loose Gadgies. That was a bit weird. Was that a bit weird? Seemed a bit weird. Might be alright when I watch it back, or I might cringe. We'll see. Today, a subject I think me and Mark have both explored on our life's journey. Life's journey. Can I say that? Ugh. Yeah. We've both had a look at this in one way or another for a valid reason. So we're going to cover alcohol and the role it plays in cultural things, in friendships and relationships, as well as, where we were, certainly where Mark was, and where we live, and how it applies to sort of the typical working class towns, like up here in the northeast and whatnot, as it is elsewhere. And we'll take you from lots of it to none of it at the other end. So, Mark, what's the what fettle, as they say?
What, as my grandfather would have said, how's your fettle?
How's your fettle?
It's a good entry point for me, my grandfather, because when I was thinking about this episode, my grandfather was a miner for, let's say, 50 years.
Miners, yeah.
And I've just spent a couple of weeks driving sort of in and around North Wales, mining communities in there, and it sort of makes you sort of understand where the sort of drinking culture comes from. Whereas these guys would work hard down the mines or in the shipyards, Monday to Friday, and then Friday you would get your pay packet, and you
literally
you give your missus, the housekeeping money, and then you'd be off down the pub, wouldn't you? Friday and Saturday night.
That was my dad, with sort of that tracing paper sort of envelope thing with money in it, and then this little sort of printed out or handwritten pay slip. And
I have good memories of a child growing up, and the sort of first interactions with alcohol was very warm feeling, and it normally involved parties, and I would be asleep upstairs in my nana and granddad's house, and just the fact that you're sensing people are having fun and laughter, and so you start to get an emotional attachment to, well, there's something really positive happening out downstairs, and that's where you can I can sort of trace back my, that might be good, that may be something interesting. It's some, not when I'm 3, maybe when I'm 4, but not 5.
My first memory was nicking some of my dad's McEwen's Export. It's this
the red can.
The red can, right? And I went, why does he drink this stuff? And I just thought, and he'd gone into the kitchen for summit, right? And I just took a quick sip, and I was like, Jesus. Oh. But of course, alcohol becomes a bit of an acquired taste, doesn't it? Certainly different alcohols do. But I remember he either had his Export or he had the blue can, the McEwen's Lager.
Now, just let's cut to the numbers here quickly. So 90% of adults drink alcohol. How come you ended in basically the 10%?
It was all about when I was taking antidepressants, and I saw the how the two interacted, and that they could accelerate. You wouldn't need to drink as much, put it that way. And then no, I'm not doing it. I need to get better. I need to get stable. I need to sort my head out. I mean, I sorted out a lot. I'm obviously not fixed. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but I needed to sort some stuff out, and I needed stability. And then I started to prize sobriety. And then when I started going to parties and going to events with people, and then seeing what they got up to, the states they got in, and just seeing them sort of huddled in a corner or sort of half asleep on a chair, I'm like, did I used to look like that? Have I been like that? And I just started remembering some things that had happened, things that didn't need to happen, and I just thought, do you know what? No, I don't want to be the person that someone who is sober is looking at and going, look at the state. Nah, I'd rather be the sober person. Admittedly, being sober around a bunch of people getting steadily drunk or getting smashed is not easy. Especially when I'm about as awkward as it gets already. But some of it's been fun, to be fair, because you see sides of people you don't normally. But it stopped. It stopped then. And the only time I ever touch a drink is to either look sociable, just to fit in. So I'll buy a bottle of something. Or because everyone is, or just to stop the bloody questions, right? So in the first round, I'll just say, yeah, a bottle of Sol or a something in a bottle. And I'll just sit with it. And then before you know it, no one's really noticed that you're still on the same one. Or perhaps they have and they're not saying out. And they're getting rounds in. And I just sort of merge into the background. Sort of get away with it. Or I'll turn up with the car. Those questions are, probably the most irritating bit of it. That you feel like the outsider rather than the ordinary person. But it kind of stopped then. And
obviously, I used to be in the 90%, probably the top end of the 90%, and now I'm in the 10%, and I believe I'm happier for it. But it's interesting, you said, people use it as a relaxing, to be able to relax, reduce stress, and have fun.
Yeah, I need to wind down. I need to wind down on a Friday. I need to wind down.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a Danish colleague, and I was just having a bit of fun. And I said, why do you drink? And he said, it helps me relax. And I was like, do you have a problem relaxing, do you? He said, what do you mean, like? He obviously doesn't speak Geordie.
But it's the natural sort of progression of that point, isn't it? That it helps me relax.
But it's almost the reverse of being at the bar with the person that you're gonna order your lemonade, Simon, and he goes, "Are you not drinking? Like, have you got a problem?" And I did the same with them by saying, "Do you have a problem relaxing?" It's just like
you basically you kind of went, so you need to drink. That's what you're saying,
and it's almost like interesting to see, because obviously we get that situation quite a lot now where people ask you the question, why don't you drink? And multitude of answers, and car is a good one, but to actually reverse it and say, you can't have fun unless you have a drink, is that right? But here's a one for you. So we did habits last week, didn't we?
Yeah, it was good.
So
it's good.
Yeah, so Auntie Beryl
Yeah.
has a sherry every Christmas Day. Does she have a habit?
A routine, perhaps.
She doesn't drink any other part of the year except Christmas Day, and she always has a sherry on Christmas Day. Does she have a habit?
Doesn't that sound more like a tradition? Although, I mean, you could say it's a habit, but it's a yearly one.
Yeah. Because
interesting, though, if you took the alcohol away from her, how would she feel about it? It's not Christmas.
Well, that's it.
It's not Christmas without the sherry. It's not Christmas.
It's not Christmas without a tangerine. It's not Christmas without a tangerine.
Tangerine, and walnuts.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Bag of
Where
nuts.
do chestnuts come from?
The chest of the tree. The boob nuts.
Got you. Yeah. Where do walnuts come from? There was one of the books I read when I gave up drinking, and the guy didn't like the word alcoholic, and he preferred to say a drinker who has lost control.
Okay. That's many more syllables, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and okay, so right, what's an alcoholic? Well, in our mind, we would probably reflect in being in Shields or Whitley Bay and seeing some bloke with a brown paper bag coming out the wine shop.
It's somebody who's reached rock bottom, isn't it? That's the first thing you picture is the rock bottom. Can't do without it, but actually, it's simpler than that, isn't it?
Yeah, you take some high society businessman who has got millions and becomes what you call a functional alcoholic.
Yeah, it's the point of codependence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, that now it's there and it always has to be. Can't do without it.
Yeah.
That's the point of alcoholism, isn't it?
I thought a lot
Addiction.
about this since I got packed in drinking, and I know I'm a habits guy. Both positive and negative habits.
Yeah.
And Carl says to me, he said, when it comes to stuff like weight and whatnot and drive and ambition, he said you're just so disciplined. And the other way of saying it is, well, I create a lot of habits, and in terms of my journey on alcohol, I would say I had a habit, rather than being, what some people might describe as an alcoholic.
So not an addiction, as in if you had a drink right now, you wouldn't be then off on a bender. You wouldn't. It's not that you can't have another one. It's that it's still always a choice.
No, I mean the easiest way to put it is like when I stopped drinking, I didn't have what you might call the DTs or anything. I remember it, and I'll come to it in a bit. How I decided to stop, and it was just a sequence of events that were like, it's not worth drinking anymore, And but I'll cover them in a bit. But I sort of remember when I went from that typical northern, weekend drinker to something that was a little bit more than that. I remember that, and that was association with football. And if you remember,
It's massive.
in the early 90s, before that, we were very much about football was on a weekend, only a weekend. FA Cup on the TV, not very much soccer on TV. Yeah,
Right.
and
Right. Yeah.
I had a very strong association in growing up about football and drinking and food and
Out
So
with the
when
lads.
Sky, out with the lads, and we'll have 27 pints and a kebab afterwards. Yeah.
Aye.
Did you ever remember Sid the Sexist? Sid the Sexist.
Aye. In Viz.
When there's the cartoon Sid the Sexist, and he's outside the kebab shop in Newcastle, and he's high up, and his mate comes out out to the kebab shop, and he goes, "Do you want onions on yours?" Aye. And of course,
There's a message.
So
There's a message there.
there is there. You get to a certain point that you're over full, and but yeah. So in the early 90s, when Sky Sports started, and then you suddenly got Monday Night Football. Then you suddenly got Europe going into the Wednesday, and of course, with me, it was all a positive experience of football, having a drink, and of course, unfortunately, by the late 90s, you were up to football was out quite often. I don't think there was a day where there wasn't a football game on.
Yeah.
And that's when I would say my habit progressed, and I was basically drinking every night, and I wouldn't get smashed. I mean, you've been out with me at November Bar sometimes, haven't you? And you've seen me smashed. I was never, it was
You were definitely a funny drunk, though. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
It was always funny.
And things like family New Year's parties. But the one thing you probably know more about than me is that alcohol, in its purest form, is called ethanol. Is that right?
Yeah, and it degrades into methanol. So you have ethanol and methanol. Your body burns off the ethanol portion, and it's the methanol left behind that causes the hangover and leaves fatty deposits on your brain and all that kind of stuff. So
just correct me if I'm wrong, but ethanol and methanol are poisons, yeah?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. And if you were to
they're killing off cells and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you were to put them in a bottle in its purest form, it'd have skull and crossbones on it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You drink any pure ethanol, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And this goes to me, how the press a couple of years ago released the fact that you have a glass of wine, once or twice a week, you'll probably live longer. what they didn't happen to tell you was it the grape or was it the alcohol?
This is the,
And we know,
yeah. This is what bugs me about that sort of research. Is it the thing in that form? Is it one of the constituent parts? Like, could I just drink something that is the equivalent
Ribena.
Yeah, so could I have Ribena with the same ABV, the same alcohol by volume? Could I drink water with the same alcohol by volume and get the same effect? Or is it the combination of alcohol and wine? Or is it actually the grape and that all the sugars have turned into alcohol? Or what is it? There's never any definition. It's just, well, drink some wine, you'll be grand. You'll be grand. Just a couple of times a week, mine. A couple of times a week, you'll be grand. What about it, though?
Yeah.
Could you not just extract the thing that makes it good for you and put that in a bottle?
It's like saying, well, if you just drank a couple of glasses of water a night, you'll be grand.
Well, your body needs water. Aye, that's true. It's true. Aye.
Now, the addictive powers of alcohol, which I don't know a great deal about, but to get the sensation that we're looking for requires more and more, doesn't it, over a period of time?
Yeah, you build a tolerance, which
Correct,
Also,
that's the word.
Yeah, which also has an impact on your liver and it constantly having to process it out of your system and ends up in extreme cases with cirrhosis. And,
Yeah,
then your
then
your liver can't regenerate anymore.
Yeah, because that's when you listen to a lot of celebrities, and I did this a little bit in terms of when I stopped, that the basic cutting down is very, very difficult to do because you see it as the holy grail. So you really want to get back to that level of tolerance that you were at, don't you?
Isn't it seen as a badge of honour in some circles that he can knock out 20 pints, still go home, he's fine. That it's seen as you're the king of drinks. Look at him. He's just had 10 whiskies and 12 pints of Guinness. How does he do it? I don't know. He's rock him like he's rock. He's
definitely got empty pockets though.
No,
whoever he is.
Oh, aye.
Especially now after was it Wednesday the budget, where if you want to go to Asda it's more expensive now, but if you want to go to the pub it's a bit cheaper.
Oh, it's 11 pence. 11 pence
Yeah.
cheaper on the duty, which I suppose it should be in some respects. I mean, it's the supermarkets that are sort of killing some of that off because you can just go and buy the drink that you drink, any drink.
Yeah,
it's cheaper. You don't see offies the classic offie anymore, do you?
Nah.
Not many of them. Not many of them about.
But unfortunately, that became one of the results of the pandemic, didn't it? Is that we all started to drink a lot more in the house.
We bought a 4-pack and a dog. What they should have done was bought a bottle of brown ale, buy a bottle of dog, and just have the whole experience. So yeah, we bought a puppy so I can go out for a walk, and I'll have my drink when I get back rather than walking to the pub. So yeah, it was beer and dogs in the pandemic.
Yeah, dog is not for life, not just for a Friday night.
Yeah,
it was when you sort of add on. I was sort of thinking about my own journey, and it's just a progressive slope in terms of the eating as well. So going back to Sid the Sexist,
eating's cheating.
Having a few pints, eating's cheating. That's it. I used to say that all the time. To the point where I would carry a bag of nuts in my pocket when I knew I was going to have a heavy session. I would carry a bag of nuts in my pocket, and it would just be a sort of way of just topping yourself up, so you weren't really hungry.
You've got to, you've got to do before you go out. You've got to eat loads of bread. It'll soak it all up.
Yeah.
Right. Techniques. I used to drink. I used to have I'll have a couple of slices of this, and I'll drink a pint of water, and then a couple of aspirin. Oh, hold on a minute. Whoa. You're doing what?
One beetroot and a cup of piss. Yeah.
What are you? Are you some sort of athlete? Yeah. I've got a routine.
Yeah. And the other thing, I mean, it's not so much now, but in my younger days, the fact that the pubs closed at 11 o'clock, you would drink it towards the end like it was going out of fashion, wouldn't you? Let's just get a couple in. Let's get a couple in.
Oh, the some of the people I went out with, they had this little ledge, right? That went around behind the seats.
Yeah.
And happy hour, 3 pints, right? Because they were mega cheap, right? Happy hour, go in, 3 pints, line them up, and they would just be lined up towards closing time. Who's you? Yeah, two of them each. Just line them back up. Just line them up. And then of course, the person behind the bar's going, "Oh, I'm not going to get close till 12:30 at this rate."
Yeah.
But that was the habit. It's like,
Yeah.
get them in now. Last orders.
That's it. You know, and of course, if you ever got refused just after last orders, you were well miffed, weren't you?
Oh, I mean, I used to run a pub at one point
Yeah.
in Yorkshire, and there was a range of reactions, and ringing the bell, or the rush. I was here before. I've been stood here waiting, so it still counts, right? Honestly,
Yeah.
especially in a northern town, I think we were lucky if we stopped serving by 11:30.
Yeah.
Trying to get through the queue, and people buying each other's, so that like, well, I'll get you two, and you get two. That means we've got two of these, and I'll get these, and I'll get these. What's wrong with just?
Pork scratchings to them. Pork scratchings.
I rip open the
Some,
bag,
scampi
put it in
fry.
the middle of the table. Just rip the bag open, put it in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
Aye.
Which what was when I sort of it's over 5 years ago now since I stopped, but I decided before Christmas I wanted to lose a little bit of weight, and I thought one of the ways to do it was to stop drinking for a month, and I stopped drinking, and you get these things in your head, and I was reading quite a few books at the time, so I decided I was going to read some books while I was off the booze for a while.
Dry January.
And I think
Dry January.
yeah, and I sort of I remember after a couple of weeks I'd read these. I think I ended up reading about 4 or 5 books, but after maybe I read 2 in quick succession. So like within a week and a half, I'd read 2 books, and I said to Anita, I said, I'm not going to drink again. And I can't tell you the words she used, but there's something around the words "op" on the end.
Right. So there was an amount of disbelief.
Let's just say, after years of training, to say that you're never going to drink again because I know what it does. She basically said you're full of crap, but in a much more abusive way, in a nice way, because she's a nice person.
So you're going to stop being a beer Olympian. You're going to leave the Olympics, and then you're going to go back to a non-athletic life. Nah, you've got too many gold medals, mate.
I know. I'll have to start coming second.
Meh. There it is.
but and so what happened to us? So hangovers, obviously, next morning things, never get them. I'm always up early now. My mind, and I couldn't give you a number, but my mind is extremely sharp now compared to when I used to drink. I mean, just in a sort of that continuous level of hyperactivity. My sleeping improved massively. Now, one of the reasons that it's just going back to, when you have a heavy session on, won't remember, but I have a heavy session on a Friday and a heavy session on a Saturday. And then Sunday night, getting to sleep was a pain in the arse because you're on early the next day. Yeah. And I couldn't sleep. And one of the things that, obviously realization is, the weighing off of the alcohol over the heavy weekend and the worry of sleeping in on a Monday morning kept me awake.
Yeah.
But that completely disappeared. And I sleep fantastically well. I don't snore anymore. So snoring stopped.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, initial problems were a desire for sugar. So
because there's tons of it in there, isn't there? So
so it's a bit like somebody giving up cigarettes, isn't it? That there's suddenly a bit of a craving for sweets or sweety things.
Yeah, you have a bit of an oral fixation. You're always wanting to chew on something or something. Yeah, yeah, or biting your nails. That kind of stuff. You always want to put something in your gob. You always want to suck on something.
Initially, after giving up, which you think, giving up alcohol, you think, right, your weight just drops off. Initially, I started putting weight on. And it's just like...
Because you'd replaced it. You'd replaced it with something else, yeah.
Yeah, I'd replaced the sugar in alcohol with sugar from carbohydrates, cakes, sweets, whatever you want to call it.
Aye.
And so, and the other thing, which is sort of bizarre, is that I would try and drink the same volume of pop, coffee, and tea as I did beer.
Why? What's that about? I mean, nobody. If you sat 21 pints of water in front of somebody,
yeah,
rather than 21 pints of Guinness, they just either wouldn't bother or they definitely wouldn't finish. Like, well, if that was just water, or if that was just Pepsi or Coke Zero, whatever it is, you wouldn't drink it, would you? You just no. I'd nurse this one.
No,
for an
but
hour.
it's interesting how you can stop one habit, but you don't realise there's. We talked about habit stacking last week. So on top of drinking, there are habit stacking that I didn't realise I had as well. So it could be the volume of liquid. It could be having fatty foods late on the night. It could be whatever. So they were stacked on top of each other.
Social smokers. You know, those that only smoke when they're drinking, that kind of thing.
So I've had to unravel some of those other things associated with drinking. I've unraveled them over time. That they actually took longer than maybe stopping drinking in terms of the association with them, which is bizarre. I lost. Talk about associations. I lost a couple of things. I lost my desire for football.
Really?
Because it just didn't give me. It stopped giving me. It was progressive. So I lost the desire for watching football. I don't eat nuts anymore, and I don't eat crap food late on at night.
So the football, is it because you didn't have that thing with football, or was it because you suddenly went, well, this on its own is not entertaining us?
Part of it, Simon, was I think the football was part of the problem. The association with football drinking. So then when I worked out, I don't want to drink anymore, subconsciously I think the association of football is, I blame football in a way.
Oh, so you couldn't separate the two. They're like forever linked, so the only way to get rid of that drink bit is to actually get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like watching Anita, and very rarely now football's on terrestrial TV, as we call it, BBC 1, 2 or 3. And if it's on, she'll go, do you want to watch the football? And I go, no. And in the early days, she was like, what? And I go, no, don't want to watch it. Not bother. And she was like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, don't. It just gives me no interest, and it's 2 hours. And this, there'll be people in the Northeast watching this and thinking, he's flipping mad.
Yeah, well, here, I've never quite understood. Like, going to the match isn't just going to the match. You've got to go up there, so 5 o'clock or even 2 o'clock, and it's the drinking leading up to the match. I'm like, well, how can you pay attention? How do you remember any of the match? Like, but there's a whole before and after session. Yeah, and then the match is like the focal point in the middle. And it seems weird to some, to not have those bits.
Just take the recent cup final.
Yeah,
recent cup final that Newcastle were in with Man United, and I was talking to my dad about it, and so the match is at 4:30 kickoff, I think it was. They were in the pub at 12 o'clock. Yeah, now he was late. he was late, and so. And he said to me, I think I got in about 10 o'clock. And so that, and bearing in mind he was late because a lot of the pubs in Newcastle were open earlier. That's 12 hours, isn't it, roughly? For one game of football. Now, I'm now going to touch on one of the areas where my life and my future life are something I look forward to, and that's my bank balance.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That doesn't even come
we,
into a
we
consideration, does it? It's more that I haven't got enough to go out, but if you did, you'd spend it. So
yeah,
it almost like it doesn't matter. Oh well, yeah, but it's a night out, and a night out is what I need. So that money is well spent because it helps me relax. I'm out with my mates, and it's a way of enjoying the football. So
I, w- I was at a
it's
yeah,
it's well spent.
I was at
Is
a
it?
yeah. Well, I was at a wedding recently, and it got to the witching hour, as you might call it, and last orders at the bar, and I got up the next morning, and somebody told me, they said, "Look, we bought a bottle of prosecco, and they obviously charge by the glass, and they charged them something like 100 quid for the bottle of prosecco. Now, if that was 6 o'clock at night, you would never make that decision, would you?
Nah,
Never.
nah. We need supplies. We need supplies. So it gets later on. Oh, they're shutting. Let's get some supplies, and we'll take them back to the room. It doesn't matter,
Yeah,
and you just
yeah,
chuck money at it, right? Because you want the buzz to last.
yeah. And they
Oh,
couldn't remember. They couldn't remember buying it, and they didn't drink it.
that's even worse.
Isn't
Even
it?
worse, isn't it? Oh, the buzz shot wears off in the morning. You did what?
Well, it actually, yeah, it definitely wears off, and then you're left with, you have your greasy, Sunday breakfast to try and pull you around. You feel better for about 10 minutes, and then you fall off the cliff again, don't you? It's just like, oh, you know. It was I think I sort of you touched on before. One of the probably major issues I have now is evening activities. Once it gets to about 9 o'clock, and I'm always driving now. I struggle with the atmosphere. I do, and that's just me being honest. I'm going to a family party tomorrow night, and obviously, luckily, this episode's going out next week, so I've got that to fear.
Well,
You know.
yeah, I could make sure it's out tonight if you like.
No, I don't. And of course, there's family coming down from the north, staying, and I'll probably be picking them up and dropping them off later on. So I've got the slaver of maybe 2 or 3 trips from the function to their hotel, and them slavering in my posh Volvo.
And asking you questions,
Oh yeah,
inappropriate
yeah,
conversations, and do you remember? Oh, and the smell.
yeah.
Oh, do you know?
Oh
Do you know that's one thing that so many people don't realise is there's times I've been out with my brother, and he's had a stressy week, and this can be like Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be out. So do you want to go and do something? We'll go out, walk the dog, catch up on some stuff, or go to a dog friendly cafe, whatever it is, right? And I might go pick him up, or we end up in an enclosed space of some kind, right? And I'm like, did you drink last night? I had like 2 or 3 cans. He says, I thought I'd. No. Well, I brushed my teeth. No. Oh well, I was chewing on. No. It's in your guts, and it works its way up. It's in there.
yeah,
You've got to replace what's in there. So you can always smell it the next day. But on the night, and when you're sober and all you can smell is sweat and
Ugh.
alcohol and tabs, and you're like, oh. You imagine, and you know what my senses are like, right? So you can imagine what that's like. It's an
Yeah.
absolute assault.
Oh, good
An
lord.
absolute assault. Sweat, alcohol, smoke, swearing. Love you. I love you. Oh, isn't he? Look at him. Look at him. I haven't told you that, have I? I haven't told you.
Yeah.
Oh, but you remember when you did that? Oh my God, oh, can this taxi not go a little bit faster? Or, oh, all of that.
Yeah.
Deeply I mean, I'm a bit iffy with physical contact and my own personal space. You imagine a taxi full of, oh,
Like, you just wonder how, poor taxi drivers on a Friday and
oh
Saturday
no,
night, how
I
how
couldn't do
the
it.
hell did they get
Couldn't
through the
do it.
night?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I remember asking Carl that question when he did it for a bit. Well, how do you?
Yeah.
Just it's a laugh. But I laugh, and I thought, I think you've just got to be aware or not bothered about that sort of culture because you're in it, you do it, and well, I've been in that place, and he wasn't fussed. Yeah, he wasn't fussed by it, and I'm like, I couldn't do it, mate.
Tips are better, Tips are better.
Yeah.
When they're
yeah, when you're spilling pound coins all over the back seats. Yeah, here. Is that it? Is that enough? Aye. Hen parties. Whoa, look at all this, and it's all this pink stuff and glitter everywhere, and stag do's. Yeah. Oh. There's always someone with something down their shirt.
That was the episode of alcohol. A bit of a journey, that one, wasn't
it? It was. I mean, where you've ended up, you're happy with where you've ended up?
Because 100%.
I mean, that's a hell of a journey.
And we probably know that most people don't do that type of journey, but a lot of people won't believe me when I say my life is much better now than it used to be, in terms of how I am and how I feel.
For reasons you wouldn't have thought of at the start.
Yeah, and also how long I'll probably live now. Which is the number one thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're not poisoning yourself, are you?
No.
Essentially. Essentially, yeah. Essentially. Aye.
Yeah.
So,
good one.
Next week, I think we've got a few bits to talk about what we want to do next week. So we're going to announce it on Facebook during the week what we're going to do. Say Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll put a post out on what we're going to do, but we'll keep it a mystery for now. But usual.
One thing, Simon. So just before you posted on Facebook. Picture of me.
I nearly forgot. It was the. I couldn't resist it. I just happened to stop when I was editing the clip, going, all right, I've switched there, and I clicked and went, am I going to? I've got to screenshot that, haven't I? I've got to. So there was Dennis Packham says. And you want me to wear the tutu? I was in fits when I saw that for two reasons. Yeah. One, I thought it was funny because I thought, well, that fits. That definitely fits. Like he's been asked to do something. The second reason was I thought, knowing how he's been at Christmas parties, I wonder if he's got one. Because I've seen you with scuba gear and inflatable all sorts at various different Pandora parties and whatnot. So, do you know what? There might be one in the attic. There might be. I just sat there chuckling to myself. So, yes.
No, you're supposed to say it's in the closet, and it's soon to come out.
It's in the closet. What it is. Of course, you're Ray, and your man put a couple of good ones on there as well. He spotted your Buddha in the background. Yeah. And your man mentioned a lovely pair of stilettos. I thought, well, there might be some of them somewhere.
It is Friday.
Aye. Marcella on a Friday.
Yeah.
So, do the usual clicky things with the likes and the subscribes, the follows. Leave some comments. Give us some challenging stuff going on. Get us to answer some questions. I might put some out on purpose at some point and see what happens.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll see you next week. Take care.